It doesn't matter if they were elected or not. One thing's clear. African leaders who stand with their people are now standing with Ibrahim Traore. They're openly backing his bold moves and promising to bring that same energy home. But here's where it gets interesting. The latest shock came from a place no one saw coming: Botswana. Yep, the same Botswana known for its calm politics, diplomacy, and being the West's golden child. That's where the tide started to shift. Then came that line, the one no one was ready for. Traore wakes up, dreams it, makes it law, and I will do the same. The room went silent. You could feel the air freeze. Cameras kept rolling. And somewhere across the ocean, in a quiet office in Washington, a red flag definitely went up. Because this wasn't just praise. It wasn't just a bold quote. It was a signal, a very clear one. It was a signal, loud and clear, that Africa's political fault lines are shifting once again. But this time, the cracks are showing up in places nobody expected. So what exactly did Botswana's president say? And why did it send shockwaves through military intel circles across the globe? Because now the whispers are getting louder. Talk of secret military deals, quiet moves to shut down foreign bases, and a bold Pan-African vision, the kind the West never thought would make it this far south. And at the center of it all, Captain Ibrahim Traore, the revolutionary leader who's got the world watching and some sweating. So what's really going on in Botswana? Why is the US suddenly on edge? And what could all this mean for the future of African sovereignty? Well, in this video, we're diving deep, because this all connects back to one man, Captain Ibrahim Traore. He didn't just take power in Burkina Faso, he tore up the rulebook. No waiting for approval, no following old protocols, no asking permission from anyone. While many African leaders are still caught in so-called cooperation agreements, which are often just colonial control with a new name, Traore broke the cycle. He didn't just win power, he launched a whole new wave of independence, the kind that happens not with speeches, but with action. His first move? He kicked out the French military. Decades of peacekeeping gone, along with their quiet grip on resources. Then he pulled Burkina Faso out of ECOWAS, a regional bloc many now see as a middleman for foreign interests. He shut down French bases, expelled foreign NGOs meddling in local affairs, and reclaimed gold mines that had been draining the country's wealth for generations. Traore sent a message. Burkina Faso will no longer play the role of a client state. And now it looks like other African leaders are starting to listen. But here's the thing. It wasn't just about what Traore removed. It was about what he started building. He began laying the groundwork for a new kind of national economy, one based on real sovereignty, full control over resources, and a return to agricultural strength. No begging, no dependency, just pure self-reliance. And while others fight neo-colonialism with protests or empty speeches, Traore waged his war with something far more powerful: policy. And that's when he became something even more dangerous than a soldier. He became an idea, one that can't be silenced, one that's starting to spread. And here's the thing about ideas. Once they start crossing borders, you can't sanction them. You can't assassinate them. Traore's real threat? It's not just what he says or does. It's who he is. At just 36, he's younger than most of the presidents showing up at UN and African Union meetings. No political dynasty, no cushy handoff of power. He took the reins with a mission: to finish what Thomas Sankara started. The mission the West hoped was buried with him. And for millions of African youth, tired of watching old men in suits beg for loans instead of building legacies, Traore is something different. He's raw, he's grounded, and most importantly, he's unowned. And that's what really scares Washington. Not his weapons, not his fiery speeches, but the fact that he's becoming a blueprint. Because Traore is not alone anymore. He's sparking a pattern. First Mali, then Niger, Guinea, and now Botswana. What seemed impossible just a year ago is slowly becoming reality. A new kind of African alignment, one that doesn't revolve around Brussels or Washington. It's a Pan-African orbit centered on sovereignty, self-defense, and unity. And that's why every time Captain Traore speaks, It's not just Burkina Faso listening, it's the whole continent starting to recalibrate. For years, Botswana was the West's poster child in Africa. Democratic, resource-rich, and always cooperative. It ticked all the right boxes, hosting fair elections, staying politically stable, playing nice with global partners. Western leaders loved Botswana, not because it was powerful, but because it was predictable, polite, moderate, non-threatening. But in 2024, the rhythm shifted. Duma Boko, a longtime opposition figure and respected voice in Southern Africa, stepped into power. He wasn't some firebrand waving a flag for revolution. He was calm, sharp, and deeply principled. People expected steady leadership. What they got was something else. Because while Boko didn't run on a radical platform, it didn't take long before his speeches started sounding less like IMF briefings and more like Pan-African blueprints. At first it was subtle. Boko talked about African innovation. He questioned the continent's addiction to foreign debt. He called for homegrown solutions, nothing too explosive, yet. But then came the moment that changed everything. A live TV broadcast that lit up social media and sent diplomats scrambling. Because this time he didn't just speak in code. He said the name out loud, Captain Ibrahim Traore. And it wasn't a warning. It wasn't a cautious reference. It was respect. Traore wakes up, dreams it, makes it law. And I will do it too, he said, looking straight into the camera, voice firm, no hesitation. This wasn't just admiration. This was alignment. In one sentence, Boko made it clear. He wasn't just watching Traore from a safe distance. He was getting ready to walk the same path, not through chaos, not through coups, but through bold, unapologetic policy, the kind that puts African interests first. He spoke of flipping colonial frameworks on their head, of rewriting policy without waiting for foreign approval, of trusting instinct, not instruction. Now for a Southern African leader, especially one from a country as deeply tied to the West as Botswana, this was seismic. Just like that, Botswana wasn't the West's reliable outpost anymore. It became something far more unsettling. A wild card, a maybe, a what if. And in geopolitics, question marks are way more dangerous than enemies because you can't predict them. While President Boko praised Traore, he also vowed to follow his lead. But here's where things got messy. Because Traore had kicked out Western troops. So wait, was Botswana hosting them too? That one question hit a nerve. Why? Because it poked at something most US-Africa military relationships try hard to keep blurry, the illusion of full transparency. And within days, the pressure was on. General Michael Langley, head of AFRICOM, had to respond. His answer? Carefully worded, almost too careful. There is no base, only partnership. But here's the thing. In today's geopolitical game, that kind of answer doesn't cut it anymore. Because when US officials say partnership, it's often just a polite disguise. A word that sounds friendly, but hides a whole lot underneath. In modern military language, partnership has become a smokescreen. Behind it, a web of operations that look, sound, and function like occupation, just without the official title. So what does partnership really mean? It means joint training missions, branded as capacity building, but often aimed at shaping African military command to fit Western priorities. It means surveillance systems gifted as aid, but quietly positioned to monitor cross-border activity, not just for African safety, but for America's strategic reach. And it means equipment, aircraft, drones, encrypted comms, handed over, yes, but all with US advisors, contractors, or command access baked in. So when they say just partnership, it's worth asking. Partnership for who? And here's the kicker. Western partnership often means granting access to what they call cooperative security locations. Basically, these are unofficial bases where the real work happens. Fueling planes, handling logistics, sharing satellite data, and gathering intelligence. All of this happens without the usual public oversight or accountability. Botswana? It's been quietly involved in all of it, hosting US military delegations, taking part in AFRICOM exercises, receiving defense gear and digital systems. It's been playing along, even if few people knew the full story. Before we dive back in, quick question, are you enjoying the video so far? If you are, go ahead and hit that like button, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more African news and gists. All right, let's keep going. Receiving defense gear and digital systems. It's been playing along, even if few people knew the full story. Before we dive back in, quick question, are you enjoying the video so far? If you are, go ahead and hit that like button, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more African news and gists. All right, let's keep going. Even now, there's never been a real public conversation about what this growing military closeness means for Botswana's future, or Africa's. In simple terms, Botswana is plugged into the American military network across Africa. But without the obvious flag waving, and as Africa wakes up and starts charting its own course, that kind of hidden partnership, it's not just awkward anymore. It's straight up unsustainable. Now, Boko's growing alignment with Traore's ideas, focused on non-alignment, military sovereignty, and anti-imperialist unity, poses a serious challenge to the system AFRICOM has been building for decades. Because if Botswana, long seen as a loyal partner, starts asking tough questions about whether these partnerships are really equal, it could spark a ripple effect across Africa. What happens when a country demands to know exactly who the foreign operatives on its soil are? What happens when a government insists on access to intelligence gathered over its own airspace? What happens when training deals are paused, not because of hostility, but because of principle? These questions aren't just theoretical anymore. Boko's speech marked a shift, a new political climate where words turn into scrutiny, and scrutiny turns into action. He put it plainly, what kind of freedom are we celebrating when our security is controlled from outside? When our intelligence is shared with people who don't answer to us? That wasn't just some vague complaint. It was a straight-up indictment. It challenged the whole idea that military cooperation with the West is automatically a good thing. It suggested that what looks like friendship might actually be a softer form of control, a way to outsource sovereignty while keeping the appearance of partnership. And in this post-Traore moment, those aren't just words on paper. They're calls to action. Because Africa is now led by people who don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk. And when one country moves, others take notice. If Botswana starts digging into, limiting, or even cutting off its military ties with AFRICOM, it won't just rattle Washington. It could unravel the whole story of friendly bases spread across Africa. Because what it really exposes is what many African thinkers have been saying for years. Behind all the aid packages, the flags, the flashy press conferences, and the friendly handshakes, there's a military machine, not built to protect Africa, but to watch and control it. And once that curtain gets pulled back, Botswana won't be the only one asking questions. Ghana will ask, Uganda will ask, Senegal will ask, and South Africa, they might demand answers. When that happens, the whole U.S. military footprint in Africa, with over 29 known outposts, could face its biggest challenge yet. Not rebellion, not outright conflict, but simple, powerful rejection. And that's the silent alarm sounding in Western war rooms right now. Because once Africa stops mistaking surveillance for support, once training is no longer seen as trust, that military grip will start to slip. And when it does, what was once sold as cooperation will be seen for what it really is, quiet occupation. And when that story really takes hold, it won't just be a PR headache. It'll trigger a full-on strategic retreat. Because if Botswana starts questioning the deal, who won't? And that's exactly why Washington is sweating right now. This isn't just about Botswana, it's about setting a precedent. For years, the U.S. has relied on a regional balance of loyalty. West Africa might have been unpredictable, but Southern Africa? That was supposed to be the safe zone. Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, the West's trusted partners, the polished, reliable faces of the continent. But that confidence? It's starting to crumble. If Botswana starts pulling away, don't expect South Africa to just sit on the sidelines anymore. If Botswana questions U.S. military ties, Namibia might start asking some serious questions about AFRICOM's surveillance gear. And if Botswana fully embraces those Pan-African ideals, countries like Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Mozambique could soon follow with bolder, more independent foreign policies. What seemed like a lone resistance in the Sahel suddenly turns into a continental movement, not driven by guns or battles, but by sheer determination and vision. See, Washington isn't just worried about one country rethinking its defense deals. What really scares them is Africa building its own defense doctrine, one that doesn't rely on outside trainers, advisors, or security assistance packages tied to strings. A doctrine where Africans protect African resources, with strategies crafted by Africans themselves, not blueprints handed down from Pentagon think tanks. This isn't just about fearing a military loss, it's about fearing irrelevance. Because when African leaders say, we'll train our own soldiers, we'll build our own satellites, we'll guard our own gold, what they're really saying is, your era is over. And in Washington, that hits harder than any missile ever could. What's interesting is, this fear, this slipping hold the West has, didn't start in Botswana. It began in Ouagadougou when Traore shattered the old playbook. But now that wave is rolling into Gaborone. And make no mistake, this isn't a one-off. It's a pattern. Across Africa, a new consciousness is rising. And it's not happening behind closed diplomatic doors. It's happening out in the open, on the streets, in parliaments, in classrooms and protest marches. African youth aren't just asking for independence anymore. They're demanding the liberation that's still unfinished. They look at their grandparents' revolutions and see freedom that's incomplete, flags waving but no real control, constitutions written but no real power, elections held but no real sovereignty. So this call for full emancipation, it's no longer just cultural. It's turning into a movement that's military and economic too. That's why Traore's name isn't just echoing through Burkina Faso anymore. You'll hear it in Johannesburg, in Kampala, in Nairobi, and now in Gaborone. Botswana's shift isn't random. It's the next chapter in a bigger story, a continental awakening. Burkina Faso took back its gold. Mali ditched the colonial currency. Niger sent French and American forces packing. And now Botswana is asking the question no one dared ask before. Has partnership become just a quiet word for occupation? But this isn't just about speeches or slogans. What's fueling this movement is something far more real, a practical urgency. Africans are waking up to a brutal truth. Their minerals fund foreign profits. Their data gets swept up by foreign tech firms. Their debt is used like a leash, and their military training, often just a Trojan horse for regime control. And maybe the worst part? Too many governments sign away sovereignty in the name of development. That's why people are rallying behind leaders like Traore and watching leaders like Boko with growing hope. Because the dream is no longer blurry, it's bold and it's shared. One currency, one defense force, one continental voice. No more begging, no more bases, no more betrayal. This isn't just about policy anymore. It's about identity. If Washington's panic signals the collapse of the old order, then the quiet alignment between Traore and Boko marks the birth of something new. When President Boko looked into the camera and said, "I will do it," in reference to Traore's bold leadership, he wasn't declaring war. He was declaring recalibration, a new way of governing, one where African priorities come first, not last, where the continent stops being a laboratory for foreign agendas and finally becomes the command center of its own destiny. And let's be real, the next phase of that shift, it's not just symbolic, it's military, because no revolution survives without defense, no vision stands without protection, and no sovereignty lasts unless you can enforce it. That's why the idea of a Pan-African army is no longer a dream. It's a deadline, not to conquer, but to protect, to defend Congo's coltan from plunder, to guard Guinea's bauxite from theft, to shield Burkina Faso's gold from sabotage, and yes, to keep Botswana's diamonds out of the grip of global corporations. But more than anything, it would serve as a message. Africa is no longer divided. And foreign powers, they only ever enter when division leaves the door open. And unity, that's the ultimate weapon. When President Boko openly aligned himself with Traore's vision, he wasn't just making a statement. He was laying the groundwork for a new future, one where Africa no longer outsources its security, one where imported armies don't define peace. He's saying what few leaders have dared to say out loud. Africa can defend itself. Africa can train itself. Africa doesn't need guardians, it needs guardianship of its own. And that is exactly why the West is uneasy. Because this shift isn't arriving on the back of coups or columns of tanks, it's arriving with confidence, with clarity, with leaders who aren't perfect, but who are present. Leaders who aren't waiting for permission, and who are finally standing tall and saying, "Enough!" You see, this isn't just about one country anymore. This is about momentum, about a chain reaction. Botswana hasn't kicked out a single foreign troop, not yet. But sometimes words hit harder than action. Because in today's world, a speech can shake empires. In the age of surveillance, words are seismic. In the age of information, a declaration is a detonation. And across the continent, sparks are turning into wildfire. From Ouagadougou to Gaborone, from Bamako to Harare, from Kinshasa to Kigali. Africa is done waiting to be saved. It's saving itself. And with every speech, every act of defiance, every leader who dares to stand tall, Africa is finally saying what should have been said long ago. We are not your base. We are not your data mine. We are not your experiment. We are not your pawn. We are Africa, and we are rising. What do you think? Should more African leaders follow Ibrahim Traore's lead and reclaim full sovereignty? And here's a question worth asking. Why are U.S. troops still stationed across Africa, but not a single African troop stationed in the U.S.? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe African nations can shut down Western military bases without facing hidden consequences? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, history is watching. And if you want more videos like this, stories about African leaders who are breaking the mold and pushing the continent forward, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay sharp, stay aware, and stay with us.